The Giza Pyramid Complex, also called the Giza Necropolis, in Egypt is home to the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafra, and the Pyramid of Menkaura, along with their associated pyramid complexes and the Great Sphinx.
All were built during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom of Ancient Egypt, between roughly 2600 and 2500 BC.
The site also includes several temples, cemeteries, and the remains of a workers' village.
The site is at the edge of the Western Desert, approximately 9 kilometers west of the Nile River in the city of Giza, and about 13 kilometers southwest of the city center of Cairo. It forms the northernmost part of the 16,000-hectare pyramid fields of the Memphis and its necropolis UNESCO World Heritage Site, inscribed in 1979. The pyramid fields include the Abusir, Saqqara, and Dashur pyramid complexes, which were all built in the vicinity of Egypt's ancient capital of Memphis. Further Old Kingdom pyramid fields were located at the sites Abu Rawash, Zawiyat El Aryan, and Meidum.
They were popularized in Hellenistic times, when the Great Pyramid was listed by Antipater of Sidon as one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is by far the oldest of the ancient wonders and the only one still in existence.
Mahdi settlements. The earliest settlement of the Giza Plateau predates the pyramid complexes. 4 jars from the Mahdi culture were found at the foot of the Great Pyramid, likely from a disturbed earlier settlement. Further, Mahdi settlement near the site was uncovered during work on the Greater Cairo wastewater project. Recent reassessment of the radiocarbon dating puts the Mahdi culture's eponymous settlement to around 3800 to 3400 BC, which is also the likely maximum possible range for the Giza remains.
Pyramids and Sphinx. The Giza Pyramid Complex consists of the Great Pyramid, also known as the Pyramid of Cheops or Khufu, and constructed around 2580 to 2560 BC, the slightly smaller Pyramid of Khafra or Chephren, a few hundred meters to the southwest, and the relatively modest-sized Pyramid of Menkaure or Mycorinos, a few hundred meters farther southwest. The Great Sphinx lies on the east side of the complex.
Consensus among Egyptologists is that the head of the Great Sphinx is that of Khafra. Along with these major monuments are a number of smaller satellite edifices known as Queen's Pyramids, causeways, and temples. Besides the archaeological structures, the ancient landscape has also been investigated.
Khufu's complex. Khufu's pyramid complex consists of a valley temple, now buried beneath the village of Nazlet El Saman. Diabase paving and nummulitic limestone walls have been found, but the site has not been excavated. The valley temple was connected to a causeway that was largely destroyed when the village was constructed.
The causeway led to the mortuary temple of Khufu, which was connected to the pyramid. Of this temple, the basalt pavement is the only thing that remains. The King's Pyramid has 3 smaller Queen's Pyramids associated with it and 3 boat pits. The boat pits contained a ship, and the 2 pits on the south side of the pyramid contained intact ships when excavated. One of these ships, the Khufu ship, has been restored and was originally displayed at the Giza Solar Boat Museum, then subsequently moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum. Khufu's pyramid still has a limited number of casing stones at its base. These casing stones were made of fine white limestone quarried at Tura.
Khafra's pyramid complex consists of a valley temple, the Sphinx temple, a causeway, a mortuary temple, and the King's Pyramid. The valley temple yielded several statues of Khafra. Several were found in a well in the floor of the temple by Mariette in 1860. Others were found during successive excavations by Sieglin in 1909 to 1910, Juncker, Reisner, and Hassan. Khafra's complex contained 5 boat pits and a subsidiary pyramid with a serdab. Khafra's pyramid appears larger than the adjacent Khufu pyramid by virtue of its more elevated location and the steeper angle of inclination of its construction. It is in fact smaller in both height and volume. Khafra's pyramid retains a prominent display of casing stones at its apex. Menkaure's pyramid complex consists of a valley temple, a causeway, a mortuary temple, and the King's Pyramid. The valley temple once contained several statues of Menkaure. During the 5th dynasty, a smaller anti-temple was added onto the valley temple. The mortuary temple also yielded several statues of Menkaure. The King's Pyramid, completed around 2510 BC, has 3 subsidiary or Queen's Pyramids. Of the 4 major monuments, only Menkaure's pyramid is seen today without any of its original polished limestone casing. The Sphinx dates from the reign of King Khafra. During the New Kingdom, Amenhotep II dedicated a new temple to Harun-Harmakhut, and this structure was added onto by later rulers. Khentkaus I was buried in Giza. Her tomb is known as LG 100 and G 8400 and is located in the central field, near the Valley Temple of Menkaura. The pyramid complex of Queen Khentkaus includes her pyramid, a boat pit, a valley temple, and a pyramid town. Most construction theories are based on the idea that the pyramids were built by moving huge stones from a quarry and dragging and lifting them into place. Disagreements arise over the feasibility of the different proposed methods by which the stones were conveyed and placed. In building the pyramids, the architects might have developed their techniques over time. They would select a site on a relatively flat area of bedrock, not sand, which provided a stable foundation. After carefully surveying the site and laying down the first level of stones, they constructed the pyramids in horizontal levels, one on top of the other. For the Great Pyramid, most of the stone for the interior seems to have been quarried immediately to the south of the construction site. The smooth exterior of the pyramid was made of a fine grade of white limestone that was quarried across the Nile. These exterior blocks had to be carefully cut, transported by river barge to Giza, and dragged up ramps to the construction site. Only a few exterior blocks remain in place at the bottom of the Great Pyramid. During the Middle Ages, people may have taken the rest away for building projects in the city of Cairo. To ensure that the pyramid remained symmetrical, the exterior casing stones all had to be equal in height and width. Workers might have marked all the blocks to indicate the angle of the pyramid wall and trimmed the surfaces carefully so that the blocks fit together. During construction, the outer surface of the stone was smooth limestone. Excess stone has eroded over time. New insights into the closing stages of the Great Pyramid building were provided by the 2013 find of Wadi El Jarf papyri, especially the diary of Inspector Mirror, whose team was assigned to deliver the white limestone from Tura quarries to Giza. The journal was already published, as well as a popular account of the importance of this discovery. The pyramids of Giza and others are thought to have been constructed to house the remains of the deceased pharaohs who ruled ancient Egypt. A portion of the pharaoh's spirit called his Ka was believed to remain with his corpse. Proper care of the remains was necessary in order for the former pharaoh to perform his new duties as king of the dead. It is theorized, the pyramid not only served as a tomb for the pharaoh, but also as a storage pit for various items he would need in the afterlife. The people of ancient Egypt believed that death on earth was the start of a journey to the next world. The embalmed body of the king was entombed underneath or within the pyramid to protect it and allow his transformation and ascension to the afterlife. The sides of all three of the Giza pyramids were astronomically oriented to the cardinal directions within a small fraction of a degree. According to the disputed Orion correlation theory, the arrangement of the pyramids is a representation of the constellation Orion. The work of quarrying, moving, setting and sculpting the huge amount of stone used to build the pyramids might have been accomplished by several thousand skilled workers, unskilled laborers and supporting workers. Bakers, carpenters, water carriers and others were also needed for the project. Along with the methods used to construct the pyramids, there is also wide speculation regarding the exact number of workers needed for a building project of this magnitude. When Greek historian Herodotus visited Giza in 450 BC, he was told by Egyptian priests that the Great Pyramid had taken 400,000 men 20 years to build, working in 3-month shifts 100,000 men at a time. Evidence from the tombs indicates that a workforce of 10,000 laborers working in 3-month shifts took around 30 years to build a pyramid. The Giza Pyramid Complex is surrounded by a large stone wall, outside which Mark Lehner and his team discovered a town where the pyramid workers were housed. The village is located to the southeast of the Khafra and Menkaura complexes. Among the discoveries at the workers' village are communal sleeping quarters, bakeries, breweries, and kitchens, with evidence showing that bread, beef, and fish were dietary staples, a copper workshop, a hospital, and a cemetery, where some of the skeletons were found with signs of trauma associated with accidents on a building site. The metal processed at the site was the so-called arsenical copper. The same material was also identified among the copper artifacts from the Cromer site, from the reigns of Khufu and Khafra. The workers' town appears to date from the Middle 4th Dynasty, after the accepted time of Khufu and completion of the Great Pyramid. According to Lehner and the Aeara team, the development of this urban complex must have been rapid. All of the construction probably happened in the 35 to 50 years that spanned the reigns of Khafre and Menkaura, builders of the 2nd and 3rd Giza pyramids. Using pottery shards, seal impressions, and stratigraphy to date the site, the team further concludes, The picture that emerges is that of a planned settlement, some of the world's earliest urban planning, securely dated to the reigns of two Giza pyramid builders, Khafra and Menkaura. Radiocarbon data for the Old Kingdom Giza Plateau and the workers' settlement were published in 2006 and then re-evaluated in 2011.
As the pyramids were constructed, the mastabas for lesser royals were constructed around them. Near the Pyramid of Khufu, the main cemetery is G7000, which lies in the East Field located to the east of the main pyramid and next to the Queen's Pyramids. These cemeteries around the pyramids were arranged along streets and avenues. Cemetery G7000 was one of the earliest and contained tombs of wives, sons and daughters of these 4th dynasty rulers. On the other side of the pyramid in the West Field, the royals' sons, Wepemnofret and Hemiunu, were buried in Cemetery G1200 and Cemetery G4000 respectively. These cemeteries were further expanded during the 5th and 6th dynasties. Westfield. The Westfield is located to the west of Khufu's pyramid. It is divided into smaller areas such as the cemeteries referred to as the Abu Bakr excavations from 1949 to 1953, and several cemeteries named based on the mastaba numbers such as Cemetery G1000, Cemetery G1100 and so on. The Westfield contains Cemetery G1000 to Cemetery G1600 and Cemetery G1900. Further cemeteries in this field are Cemeteries G2000, G2200, G2500, G3000, G4000 and G6000. 3 other cemeteries are named after their excavators: Junker Cemetery West, Junker Cemetery East and Steindorf Cemetery, Eastfield, East. The East Field is located to the east of Khufu's pyramid and contains Cemetery G7000. This cemetery was a burial place for some of the family members of Khufu. The cemetery also includes mastabas from tenants and priests of the pyramids dated to the 5th dynasty and 6th dynasty, Cemetery Gis. This cemetery dates from the time of Menkaura, according to Junker, or earlier according to Reisner, and contains several stone-built mastabas dating from as late as the 6th dynasty. Tombs from the time of Menkaura include the mastabas of the royal chamberlain Khaemnefert, the king's son, Khufujadef, who was the master of the royal largesse, and an official named Nankra, Central Field. The Central Field contains several burials of royal family members. The tombs range in date from the end of the 4th dynasty to the 5th dynasty, or even later. Tombs dating from the Said and later period were found near the causeway of Khafra and the Great Sphinx. These tombs include the tomb of a commander of the army named Ahmose and his mother, Queen Nakhtu-Bastarau, who was the wife of Pharaoh Amasis II. The South Field includes mastabas dating from the 1st dynasty to the 3rd dynasty, as well as later burials. Of the more significant of these early dynastic tombs are one referred to as Covington's tomb, otherwise known as Mastaba T, and the large Mastaba 5, which contained artifacts naming the 1st dynasty pharaoh Jet. Other tombs date from the late Old Kingdom, specifically the 5th and 6th dynasty. The south section of the field contains several tombs dating from the Said period and later, tombs of the pyramid builders. In 1990, tombs belonging to the pyramid workers were discovered alongside the pyramids, with an additional burial site found nearby in 2009. Although not mummified, they had been buried in mud brick tombs with beer and bread to support them in the afterlife. The tomb's proximity to the pyramids and the manner of burial supports the theory that they were paid laborers who took pride in their work and were not slaves, as was previously thought. Evidence from the tombs indicates that a workforce of 10,000 laborers working in 3-month shifts took around 30 years to build a pyramid. Most of the workers appear to have come from poor families. Specialists such as architects, masons, metalworkers, and carpenters were permanently employed by the king to fill positions that required the most skill. There are multiple burial shafts and various unfinished shafts and tunnels located in the Giza complex that were discovered and mentioned prominently by Selim Hassan in his report Excavations at Giza, 1933-1934. He states, "Very few of the Saitic, referring to the Said period shafts, have been thoroughly examined for the reason that most of them are flooded." Osiris shaft. The Osiris shaft is a narrow burial shaft leading to 3 levels for a tomb, and below it, a flooded area. It was first mentioned by Hassan, and a thorough excavation was conducted by a team led by Hawass in 1999. It was opened to tourists in November 2017. New Kingdom and Late Period. During the New Kingdom, Giza was still an active site. A brick-built chapel was constructed near the Sphinx during the early 18th dynasty, probably by King Thutmose I. Amenhotep II built a temple dedicated to Haron-Harmakhet near the Sphinx. As a prince, the future pharaoh Thutmose IV visited the pyramids and the Sphinx. He reported being told in a dream that if he cleared the sand that had built up around the Sphinx, he would be rewarded with kingship. This event is recorded in the dream stele, which he had installed between the Sphinx's front legs. During the early years of his reign, Thutmose IV, together with his wife Queen Nefertari, had stelae erected at Giza. Pharaoh Tutankhamun had a structure built, which is now referred to as the King's Rest House. During the 19th dynasty, Seti I added to the temple of Haron-Harmakhet, and his son Rameses II erected a stela in the chapel before the Sphinx and usurped the rest house of Tutankhamun. During the 21st dynasty, the temple of Isis, mistress of the pyramids, was reconstructed. During the 26th dynasty, a stela made in this time mentions Khufu and his queen Henutsun. Division of the 1903-1905, excavation of the Giza Necropolis. In 1903, rights to excavate the Westfield and pyramids of the Giza Necropolis were divided by three institutions from Italy, Germany, and the United States of America. Prior to the division of the Giza Plateau into three institutional concessions in 1903, amateur and private excavations at the Giza Necropolis had been permitted to operate. The work of these amateur archaeologists failed to meet high scientific standards. Montague Ballard, for instance, excavated in the Western Cemetery with the hesitant permission of the Egyptian Antiquities Service, and neither kept records of his finds nor published them. Italian, German and American concessions at Giza. In 1902, the Egyptian Antiquities Service under Gaston Maspero resolved to issue permits exclusively to authorized individuals representing public institutions. In November of that year, the service awarded 3 scholars with concessions on the Giza Necropolis. They were the Italian Ernesto Schiaparelli from the Turin Museum, the German Georg Steindorf from the University of Leipzig, who had funding from Wilhelm Pelizaeus, and the American George Reisner from the Hearst expedition. Within a matter of months, the site had been divided between the concessionaires following a meeting at the Mena House Hotel involving Schiaparelli, Ludwig Borchardt, Steindorf's representative in Egypt, and Reisner. Division of the West Field. By the turn of the 20th century, the 3 largest pyramids on the Giza Plateau were considered mostly exhausted by previous excavations. So the Western Cemetery and its collection of private mastaba tombs were thought to represent the richest unexcavated part of the plateau. George Reisner's wife, Mary, drew names from a hat to assign 3 long east-west plots of the necropolis among the Italian, German and American missions. Schiaparelli was assigned the southernmost strip, Borchardt the center, and Reisner the northernmost. Division of the pyramids. Rights to excavate the pyramids were then also negotiated between Schiaparelli, Borchardt, and Reisner. Schiaparelli gained rights to excavate the Great Pyramid of Khufu, along with its 3 associated Queen's pyramids and most of its eastern cemetery. Borchardt received Khafra's pyramid, its causeway, the Sphinx, and the Sphinx's associated temples. Reisner claimed Menkaura's pyramid, as well as its associated Queen's pyramids and pyramid temple, along with a portion of Schiaparelli's eastern cemetery. Any future disputes were to be resolved by Inspector James Quibell, as per a letter from Borchardt to Maspero. Immediate aftermath. This arrangement lasted until 1905, when, under the supervision of Schiaparelli and Francesco Ballerini, the Italian excavations ceased at Giza. As the Italians were more interested in sites which might yield more papyri, they turned their concession of the southern strip of the Western Cemetery over to the Americans under Reisner. Modern usage. In 1978, the Grateful Dead played a series of concerts later released as Rocking the Cradle Egypt 1978. In 2007, Colombian singer Shakira performed at the complex to a crowd of approximately 100,000 people. The complex was used for the final draw of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations and the 2021 World Men's Handball Championship. Egypt's Minister of Tourism unveiled plans for a €17 million revamp of the complex by the end of 2021, in order to boost tourism in Egypt, as well as make the site more accessible and tourist-friendly. According to Lonely Planet, the refurbishment includes a new visitors centre, an environmentally friendly electric bus, a restaurant, the Nine Pyramids Lounge, as well as a cinema, public toilets, site-wide signage, food trucks, photo booths and free Wi-Fi. The new facility is part of a wider plan to renovate the 4,500-year-old site.
Don't forget to subscribe to World Wonders Unveiled and turn on notifications.